Hey friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer and happy 2025. You know, now that Christmas is over, it's kind of the time of year when my brain jumps right into garden planting season. And so I thought starting the year with a seed haul would be a great start to the year. So this is my first seed haul of the year. This is an order from MIgardener seeds. I will probably film a second seed haul a little later in the year, probably in a few weeks, maybe late January, early February, something like that, because I am going to be ordering from multiple companies. But the first seed order came in and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So I'm just going to dive right in. I'll show you what I got and talk a little bit about what I plan to do with each of these throughout the growing season. This is just the order they're packed in. It's not in any particular order. First, I ordered this Freckles romaine lettuce. Now, I love lettuce. If you have been following along with my channel for a while, you know that I grow a lot of lettuce. I grow lots of different varieties of lettuce. Because I like a lot of variety, I find that it's a lot more enjoyable to harvest, to eat, and it just looks more beautiful in the garden to have lots of different varieties growing. So you'll probably see a handful of lettuce varieties throughout this order. The first one, as I said, is this Freckles romaine lettuce. I have grown this one, I think maybe once before. I've grown a couple different speckled varieties, but you know, a classic romaine, green with red speckles, so I thought that would be a good one. Next, we have the red Wethersfield onion. Now, again, if you have been following along with me for a while, you know that onions are not my strong suit. I have tried to grow onions multiple times throughout the years, and I have yet to be truly successful. But I live in Connecticut. This onion, red Wethersfield, is named after the town of Wethersfield, Connecticut, where it was developed. I figured if I am going to have success growing any onion, I probably have the best chance with an onion that was grown or developed fairly locally to me. It should be very, acclimated to my climate. So wish me luck with that. Please share your onion growing tips below and stick with me throughout the season and we'll see how it goes. Next, I got the purple red strawflower. Now, I have not grown strawflowers before. They are really pretty in the garden, and one of the big benefits of growing strawflowers, and one of the reasons why a lot of people grow them, is because they make great dried flowers. If you've ever grown them or seen them grown before, if you look at them out in the garden, you can touch them and they kind of feel papery, almost as if they were dried flowers already. So I find that, I don't have any personal experience with them. But what I have seen with dried straw flowers is that they tend to retain their color better when dried than other colors. Honestly, the real reason that I'm growing this one is because I saw multiple pictures of gardens where people were growing this in the past year, and I thought they were so beautiful. I just decided to give that a try in my garden too. Next, I have, as promised, another lettuce, Marvel of Four Seasons lettuce. This is one of my all-time favorite lettuces. This is a butterhead type lettuce, which, sorry, it's a little breezy out here. If you see my camera shaking a little bit, it's warmer today than it has been, but it is still cold. I'm actually filming this in mid-December. We're coming up on Christmas pretty soon. So even though you guys are going to see this in January, as I said, it's December when I'm filming it, and it has been pretty cold. I really did want to film this video outside, so when we got a slightly warm-ish day, I took advantage. That being said, it is still winter out here, so it's not warm. I'm hoping to get this video filmed outside, but if we have to move inside, if it gets too windy or cold, then I hope you'll bear with me through that. Back to this lettuce. This is Marvel of Four Seasons. This is a butterhead type lettuce, which is my favorite variety, although I like to grow many different varieties. And as the name implies, this can grow really well through a variety of weather conditions, a variety of temperatures. So I would say this is in my top 2 or 3 lettuce varieties. I really enjoy this one. I've grown it many times, and I anticipate that it will do well again this year, as it always has for me in the past. Next, red acre cabbage, and I think that's just so beautiful. Now, I have grown green cabbage a couple times with, mixed success. I have been able to harvest some cabbage. It's been a little bit on the small side, but still enjoyable. I've grown traditional, just, a classic green round cabbage, and I've also grown Savoy cabbage. But I haven't tried red before. But I think cabbage is one of the most beautiful vegetables to grow in the garden. It almost just looks like a giant flower, a giant rose. And the red cabbage, the purple varieties, I think are especially beautiful. So I'm excited to try that one this year. Next, we have the pineapple tomato. I have grown the pineapple tomato once in the past, but I did not start the seeds for it. I purchased it as a started plant at my local nursery. This past year, I did not grow pineapple tomato and I kind of missed it. So this year I decided that I would get seeds and start my own. So I'm really excited to grow that one this year. It's a really big heirloom tomato. I think it's technically considered a yellow tomato, but as you can see on the picture there, it has those beautiful red streaks, and those red streaks continue throughout the interior of the tomato as well. It has great flavor. I did find the one year I grew it that the yield wasn't as high as many other tomatoes, but that's something that if you grow the really special heirloom tomato, sometimes you have to sacrifice yield a little bit. So I will grow that one this year, and at the end of this season, I will let you know how it did. Now I'm just restocking some Savoy cabbage. You can see that this one, the leaves are a little bit crinkly. That's what makes it Savoy cabbage. I can't remember if I've grown this exact variety before or not. I just purchased, I think, whatever Savoy cabbage seeds were available to me locally. So as I said, I don't remember if it was this exact variety, but I really like the crinkled look of the Savoy cabbage, and I think it has a nice delicate flavor. So I'm excited to try that one again. Next, we have the Picotee Cosmos. This is one of my tried and true favorites. It is a beautiful, reliable flower in the garden. It's just carefree and beautiful. I love growing Cosmos in general because I find that it does really well in the vegetable garden. It blends in beautifully. It kind of weaves in with other plants. It attracts pollinators. It just makes the garden a really beautiful place to be. And this variety in particular is a favorite because I think it's so beautiful, and it also has been really reliable for me in the past. So I was low on seeds for that, so just needed to restock that. Next, we have Bib Butterhead lettuce. Now, I have grown many lettuces over the years. I've grown several specific Butterhead lettuces. I don't think I've grown the specific Bib Butterhead variety. I have gotten it from the grocery store, and it is really delicious. So I'm excited to try that one, just something new. Just wanted to branch out and, try all the lettuces. Next, I have this purple sprouting broccoli. I have never grown this before. So last year in the garden, I decided kind of last minute, it's a little breezy, so I'm gonna make sure my camera doesn't fall over. So I decided last minute in my garden last year to try a sprouting broccoli. So I tried the variety called Asparagus, which is a kind of, I guess it's a little more modern hybrid variety. And we did really enjoy the flavor of it. I wasn't able to fully evaluate the yield because it ended up, my plants partway through the season got eaten. So I'm not sure how much they would have yielded as the season went on, but we did really enjoy what we were able to harvest. And I decided to try this one this year. As you can see, it's a beautiful purple color. And I wanted to branch out and try some more sprouting broccoli varieties. One thing I like about this variety as opposed to the Asparagus is that the Asparagus, as I mentioned, is a hybrid, which means that I can't save seeds from it and reliably know exactly what those seeds will yield. This is an heirloom variety, and it's an open pollinated variety, meaning that as long as I prevent cross-pollination, I can save seeds from this and know that what I'm going to get is going to be the same as the parent plant. Now, that's something that may or may not matter to you. There's definitely not anything inherently wrong with hybrid varieties. I do grow hybrid varieties in my garden as well. But because I also like to save seeds, I try to grow the majority of the plants in my garden open pollinated or heirloom varieties so that I can reliably save the seeds. So back to this real quick. If you have any tips on growing sprouting broccoli, I'd love to hear those. And once again, I am trying another onion. This is the Ailsa Craig onion. This onion is supposed to get quite large. It's supposed to be famous for getting really large. So my hopes are that by growing an onion that's supposed to get really large, you know me with my onion growing woes in the garden, maybe I'll be able to grow an actual normal sized onion. So again, onion growing tips are greatly appreciated. This variety in particular, I think, is a sweet onion, which means that it would have great flavor, not necessarily be great for storage. So my plan with those, assuming that I actually have anything worth harvesting, would be to grow them, to use them fairly quickly, and then once they've been in storage for a little bit, if they're starting to get a little bit soft, probably won't store for much longer is I will probably chop up all that I have left and freeze them or turn them into onion powder or something like that. You know, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, assuming that I'm going to have enough harvest to, you know, have to find something to do with, so we'll see what happens there. All right, next, super red romaine lettuce. You know, as promised, more lettuces. This one I did really enjoy growing in my garden last year. I think you probably can't see it behind me, but you can see I have a lettuce patch still growing in my garden. This is, as I said, mid-December, and that lettuce is going strong. I don't know if you can see this particular variety, but on the end I do have some of this still growing. So we have had nights well below freezing. We've had nights into probably, I think maybe 18 degrees Fahrenheit is our coldest so far. And you know, the lettuce didn't skip a beat. It's been snowed on. It's been doing great. So I would say that those lettuce varieties are doing really well for me in cold weather. And you know, I'm a sucker for that bright or that really deep red color. Add some good variety to the lettuce, to our salads. Next, Cherokee purple tomato. This is my favorite. I love the Cherokee purple slicing tomato. I have had 2 years in a row where I have not been successful with this tomato. This past year, my seeds were a little older and I didn't get any of my seeds to germinate. So I purchased 2 seedlings that were labeled as Cherokee purple at a local nursery. It turned out they were not in fact Cherokee purple, so I was not actually able to harvest any. And the season before that, I had some sort of issue with all of my tomatoes of this color. I'm not sure what they have in common that caused them all to be affected. My other tomatoes were great. So I'm hoping that this year, you know, you have to have a lot of hope and optimism to be a gardener sometimes, I think. So I'm really looking forward to finally getting some of my delicious Cherokee purple tomatoes this summer. I have fresh seeds, so I shouldn't have any germination problems. So stay tuned for that. Next, I got this Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. You know, I tend to have mixed results with spinach. I think the best success I've had with spinach has actually been when I have sowed the seeds, you know, maybe mid-fall, so that they have time to germinate before it gets really cold, but the plants don't really get large. Then the little seedlings overwinter, and in the spring, they take off, and I've had great harvest of spinach that way. It's obviously a little bit late to do that this year, or to harvest this spring. So what I will probably do, I'll probably plant a little bit of this in the spring and try to get, you know, a late spring, early summer harvest from that. I'll probably save the bulk of it to plant in the fall and try to get a harvest next spring from that. But I do really enjoy some nice fresh spinach. It's a great thing to harvest from the garden. Next, I am getting the Royal Burgundy bush bean. Now this is a variety that I've grown before. I've been happy with it. It's a basic purple bush bean. Beans are something that I grow a lot of, and I like to have those similarly to my lettuce in lots of different colors. So my favorites to grow are actually pole beans, but I always grow some bush beans too because they're small plants and it's really easy to stick them in between other plants when you have little bits of spaces to fill. I have a couple green stalk tower planters on my deck. I'm planning to grow some bush beans in that. And these are also really good for succession sowing because they mature so quickly. It's really good when you have another crop that needs to go in, but you have, you know, maybe 2 months before then, or you pulled something out and you have a little bit of time before the end of the season. Something like bush beans is great to throw in that spot because it doesn't take that long to mature. So as I said, I like to have a variety of different bush beans on hand to fill in spaces like that. Next, the Isis Candy cherry tomato. This one has been on my radar to try for the past couple years. I think it's really pretty. I kind of like those mottled color tomatoes. I find them really pretty and interesting looking. Cherry tomatoes are another one of my favorite things to grow a big variety of. We harvest a lot of cherry tomatoes to use for salads and just snacking. We like to use lots of them throughout the year, and I like to have a big variety. This is one that I hadn't tried before, and so I decided to go ahead and give it a try this year. Has great reviews for flavor, so I'll keep you posted on how we like that one. Next, blue spice basil. Now, I love basil. Basil to me is one of the most important tastes of summer. You know, basil, the smell is just so summery and the flavor is amazing. The blue spice basil is a variety that I have not tried before. I grow many varieties of basil each year, but this one is new to me, and I'm gonna say what got me to try this is it's known for its unique blend of vanilla and clove scents. That just sounds so good. And I just wanted to give it a try, so I will let you know how I like this one. Plus, it's so pretty too. And I feel like you can't really go wrong with basil. You know, I probably am going to grow 4 or 5 other types of variety of basil in addition to that. But, you know, I thought it was fun to try a new one. I like to try every year in the garden. I like to grow a mix of things that are tried and true that I know will be successful for me, that I've grown over and over, and add in some new things too. You know, it keeps things interesting, and sometimes you discover new favorites that way. So back to this, because we've still got quite a few seeds to go through here. Mary Washington asparagus. This, admittedly, was a little bit of an impulse buy. I do have asparagus growing over in my side yard garden. I planted asparagus crowns 2 years ago, so this coming spring will be the 3rd year, which means I finally, assuming things go well, should get to harvest some asparagus. So I'm really excited about that. The variety that I planted it's a type that doesn't produce seeds. So I figured, what would be the harm in getting, you know, some heirloom asparagus seeds and trying to make a second asparagus patch somewhere in the yard. I have no idea where, you know. That's not always something that I consider when I buy seeds, which is, I don't recommend following my example, but sometimes I, you know, envision what I want to grow more than what I actually have space for. So I am not exactly sure what I'm going to do with this yet, but I did like the idea of some heirloom asparagus varieties that I can establish somewhere in the yard and have a little bit of an extra heirloom asparagus patch. Okay, next, I got some mosh. This is a green that I think is fairly unfamiliar, at least in America. A lot of people aren't as familiar with it. I don't think I had ever heard of it until I started gardening. But this is a beautiful, tender green. It's really delicious. And I think the main claim to fame of mosh is that it is so cold tolerant. You know, I've grown it in the past and it just grows all winter long. Even if it gets cold and snowy to the point where it won't actually grow, it'll hold. You know, it's basically like just keeping it in a fridge. And it will just stay there in harvestable condition. If you keep it covered or if you're willing to dig through the snow to find it, it'll be there faithfully waiting for you. So this is a great one to grow if you like to do some winter gardening, especially if you live in an area that's maybe slightly warmer than mine. It does like cold, but if you're in an area where your ground may not freeze solid, or at least you're able to keep it from freezing solid, you may not get a lot of snow, you should be able to keep this going all winter long. So this is a good, delicious one. Another thing I find with this one, similarly to the spinach, is that if I get a lot of snow and I haven't covered it with some sort of plastic or anything to keep it accessible, it does reward me with a really early harvest in the spring. So if I'm not able to harvest it in the winter, I'll harvest it in the spring, and it's delicious, definitely worth looking into and growing. Next, the pink Berkeley tie-dye tomato. I love tomatoes. You know, I love everything that I grow in the garden, but if I had to pick one thing that was my favorite, it would be the tomato. And I like to grow many varieties of tomatoes. So what you're seeing in this haul here is not even going to be the totality of what I'm going to grow for tomatoes. I have many seeds left over from previous years. I have some other seed orders from other companies that will be coming. So there will be lots of tomato variety, which will be really great when it comes to summer and it's time to harvest these. So the pink Berkeley tie-dye, I mean, you can see this is a really beautiful tomato. You can see where it got its name. It's got those multicolored stripes. This is supposed to be an amazing tomato, and I'm really excited to try it. Every year, I need to try a couple new tomato varieties, and this was one of the ones that I chose for this year. Next, we have the Maxabelle bush bean. This is like a French filet bean. It has really slender beans. It stays very tender, very delicious. I've grown this one, I think, the past 2 years and really enjoyed it. Similarly to what I mentioned when we were talking about the Royal Burgundy purple bush beans, I just like to have a variety of bush beans. I find basically everything I said about the purple applies here aside from the color. It's really reliable, really delicious, grows really fast, so it's great when you need a quick harvest or when you only have a small space. So I'm excited to restock these beans. So next, we have another lettuce variety. This is the black-seeded Simpson. You can see it has those beautiful bright green lettuce leaves. This is one of my favorites to grow in early spring. I find that it does really well really early in the season. I will say I find that this particular variety doesn't hold really well into the summer. It doesn't handle heat that well, but it yields really quickly. It grows fast and it's really delicious. So that's one of my go-tos that I plant early in the spring. I usually plant that around the same time I plant my peas. So we'll go through that in March. We'll talk a little more about that and plant some seeds together. Next, another lettuce variety. This is the ruby red leaf lettuce. As you can see, this is a beautiful deep red lettuce. I enjoyed this one this past year. In my experience, I don't think it was quite as richly colored as the lettuce on the seed packet, but it was still really beautiful, still really delicious, and definitely worth growing. We enjoyed that one, so I'm restocking that again. Now, I do find that seeds do last. They usually last longer than a year. You know, seed companies are required by law to pack fresh seeds for every year. So I am not necessarily getting all of the seeds that I'm going to grow this year in this seed order or in the other seed orders that I'll be getting. I will be growing many of my seeds from the past. Lettuce, I find, does probably last a little bit, has a little bit shorter of a shelf life than many other seeds. The other thing is that when I plant lettuce, I plant a lot of seeds. I plant it very thickly. Again, we'll talk more about that in the spring, but that's why I'm restocking so many lettuces, because I just go through so many seeds that I don't have a lot of lettuce left from last year. So you'll continue to see me showing more lettuce packets, and that's why I go through so many. So next we have the jalapeno pepper. As you can see, this looks just like a jalapeno pepper. This is similar to a jalapeno, but this variety has been bred to be heatless. So, you know, I grow jalapenos, and for the most part, I'm growing here in Connecticut. We do not have a really warm climate compared to a lot of other areas. And so for the most part, our experience has been that homegrown jalapenos tend to not be as spicy as jalapenos we get in the grocery store that might be grown in places like Mexico, you know, which are more well suited to growing spicy peppers. That being said, this past summer, for some reason, I don't think it was any hotter than normal, and it was definitely rainier than normal. Our peppers were very spicy this past year. Too spicy for me. My husband enjoyed the hotter peppers. But what I do like to do at the end of the season is make some pickled jalapenos and also make some cowboy candy, which is basically candied and pickled jalapenos. I like to eat those, but I don't like them to be too hot. So what I would like to do is make a batch for me or for anyone who is, you know, not quite as tolerant of spicy food as my husband, where I'll mix together the jalapenos that we have along with these heatless jalapenos. And what should happen is, as they sit and blend together, the overall heat level should mellow out and be somewhere in the middle, which would be the perfect heat level for me. So that is my plan for these. Also, we sometimes do like to make stuffed jalapenos, jalapeno peppers, basically stuffed with cream cheese and cheddar and wrapped with bacon. They're so delicious. But when the peppers are too spicy, I'm not always as excited to eat them. So if I had some of these heatless options to mix in, that would be a great option too. So I'm looking forward to trying these for the first time, and I'll let you know, just like everything else here, how we like them. Next, we have another bean variety. This is the jade bush bean. Now you can see this one's a little bit of a deeper green than many other bean varieties. I did try this variety last year. I grew it in the garden for the first time, and I really liked it. I thought that it was reliable, it had great flavor, it was, you know, this beautiful dark green color. We really enjoyed growing this, so similarly to the other bush bean varieties that I mentioned, has the same perks as those, so we will be growing that again this year. Next, slow bolt arugula. Arugula is another cold weather plant. This is great to grow early in the spring, so I would plant this out similarly to some of the lettuce that I mentioned, and with my peas and other cold weather plants. I would plant those out in mid to late March, depending in my area, depending on the weather this spring. So I'll keep you updated about that. But this does really well in that cool weather. Also, you can get a second harvest of this in the fall. And you know, it just adds a little bit of variety to your salad. It gives it a little bit bolder of a flavor. Arugula can be fairly spicy, depending on the variety and the weather conditions when you harvest it. So, and plus, you know, it's just got a little bit of a different look. So it adds some more just delicious variety to a salad. Next, we have the winter luxury pumpkin. So for the past couple years, I've grown the classic sugar pie pumpkin, and you know it's done well enough. We don't eat a lot of pumpkin, so we don't really need a big yield, but I haven't really gotten a real large yield out of my sugar pie pumpkins. So I wanted to give a different variety a try. This is also supposed to be the highest quality sugar pumpkin for pies. That being said, I don't actually use my pumpkins for pies. I don't like pumpkin pie, and my kids don't like pumpkin pie, or at least most of us don't like pumpkin pie in the family. There's a couple that do. So I use them more in baked goods. My husband likes to make pumpkin bread. I'll make, a pumpkin roll, different things like that. This will get used, even though, as I said, it's supposed to make the highest quality pies, but I'm assuming that high quality would carry through for other baked goods as well. So that's a new one that we are trying out this year for the first time. Next, this is my favorite lettuce variety. I'm always going to grow many lettuce varieties, but if I had to choose just one, it would be this butter crunch lettuce. I love butter crunch. I find that it has great flavor. I love that soft buttery texture of the leaves. I find that it's really reliable for me. I don't think I've ever, since I've grown it, had a year where I did not get a solid butter crunch lettuce harvest. And it's just a beautiful, nice green. I find that it handles heat fairly well and handles cold fairly well. It's not my most heat tolerant or most cold tolerant, but it handles both well enough that I can grow it for a significant portion of the year. So overall, this is just an all-around winner. I can't imagine only growing one lettuce variety, but if I did have to choose just one, butter crunch would probably be the one. Next, we have Tango leaf lettuce. Now again, if you look behind me, you can see that little patch of that bright green there. That's what this is. Now, as I said, mid-December when I'm filming this, that lettuce hasn't skipped a beat. It's beautiful. We've harvested that patch many times and it's still going strong. I will keep harvesting it, but I'm planning to keep at least a little bit of the patch going through the winter so I can see how long it actually does last. I want to see what temperatures it can tolerate and just how long it'll last in my Connecticut garden. So I'll keep a little bit of that going and I'll report back to you whatever information I'm able to gather. So this is a great winter lettuce. So I'm restocking that. I'll probably grow some of this in the very early spring as well. Possibly. I have a lot of other varieties that do well in early spring, so we'll see. I may save this for fall, but either way, this is a solid lettuce, highly recommended. It's delicious, reliable, so we've enjoyed that one. Next, the San Marzano tomato. I have grown many tomato varieties over the years. I've tried a variety of different paste tomatoes for sauce and various canning purposes. Last year, I actually tried out 3 different varieties. Of the 3 I tried last year, the classic Roma tomato was my favorite. That one did the best for me. It yielded the most, had great flavor. But I did want to give the San Marzano tomato a try as well because it's one of the classics, has a great reputation for good yield, good flavor, just all around a reliable, delicious sauce tomato. So I wanted to give that a try. So this year I will probably grow some San Marzanos next to my classic Roma tomatoes, kind of compare how they perform against each other and also the flavor and just how well I'm able to process them. So stay tuned for that. If you have experience growing that or anything else that I've mentioned, go ahead and let me know because I would love to hear your experiences. Next, this was an impulse buy. This was the diamond bell pepper. If you have been following with me for the past couple of years, you've seen that I am, for the most part, kind of trying to get away from growing as many bell peppers, which is not because I don't love bell peppers. I think they're beautiful and delicious, and I love using them in my cooking. My experience with growing them, however, has been that they generally don't yield that well, at least for me in my garden. So I've been trying to replace them with other sweet pepper varieties that I can use in cooking in similar ways, but that have better yield for me. That being said, Luke from MIgardener did post he posted a few photos of this, I think on his Facebook page is where I saw them. And I saw that and I was like, we'll give it a try, why not? It's beautiful. And he had amazing results with it. I can't guarantee that I will have similar results, but I figured I would give it a try and see how it is. I am still probably going to primarily grow alternative sweet peppers that are not bell peppers, but I did want to give this one a try. right, we're down to the last couple seed packets. So here we have the mushroom basket tomato. I mean, look at that. That's just so beautiful. I am a sucker for tomatoes, specifically unique tomatoes. And this one, I just love that lobed look. I just think it's really cool looking. It's really fun. I have heard great things about this tomato. I have heard that it has delicious flavor and that it's really reliable. So I am really excited to try this one. I have never grown it before. So as the season goes on, I'll let you know how it does, let you know how I like it, but I'm excited to give that a try. And my final seed packet is the hillbilly tomato. You can see this one kind of looks similar to the pineapple tomato. This is another new variety to me. I have never grown it before. Honestly, I hadn't even really heard much about it until this past growing season. I can't even remember where I heard about it. I'm not sure if I saw someone growing it or just read about it in a seed catalog. It could have been any number of places. You know, I kind of always have my radar up for new exciting tomato varieties. This is actually an old variety. It's just new to me. So I'm excited about this one. I would love to give it a try. If you have experience growing this, please let me know how it did for you. I have heard that it has amazing flavor, good yield, you know, all the high points that you want your tomatoes to hit. So I'll keep you updated about whether or not that holds true in my garden. As I'm sure you can hear, the wind is picking up out here. So I'm going to head inside where it's warm. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and just sharing this seed haul with me. I am so excited to grow these seeds with you throughout the season and just to take you along for the ride as we grow these seeds in my garden. So I hope that you will come back and hang out in my garden with me as it warms up a little bit, hopefully pretty soon. And I'm just looking forward to a great gardening season. So I hope you're having a great day, and I can't wait to see you soon. I'll see you next time.